Hey, welcome back. You're watching Impossible Color, and today is going to be another speed edit of this portrait. First thing I do is set my photo to camera neutral, and I'm going to mess around with some white balance adjustments. Usually I try the automated ones first and then tweak them to my liking. If you do have a gray card, it's good to take a shot of that, and it can make your life a lot easier in just using the white balance picker. So next I work with all my exposure settings. I usually start with white and move that up, and then do shadows, and then do my fine tuning with the highlights and blacks. I generally avoid exposure and contrast because those are covered by the other values anyway. Then I move to the HSL tab and I go through each individual color. You can see here I brought the yellow quite a bit over to the green just to unify those colors together. Next up is the saturation tab. Can add quite a bit to the yellow here, but everything else isn't really too dramatic for this particular image. I was pretty happy with the saturation level already. You can see I brought the aquas down a little bit because I didn't want those little shiny parts and the leaves to stand out too much. And now moving on to the luminance. I'm going to adjust each individual color's darkness or lightness. It's good to do this with the camera raw stage as opposed to Photoshop. You just have more information to work with. And now if you have any kind of filter over your lens, you're likely going to get some chromatic aberration or some little outlines of green and purple on the edges where there's transitions between light and dark. And you can fix that easily in that section, the lens correction section. So now that I cropped it, just going to open it up in Photoshop here, and we're going to perfect those colors. And I've created a selective color adjustment layer, and starting with red and going through all of the colors, I'm going to be individually adjusting these. Basically what I'm looking for is to have a nice complementary set of colors. So the dress has enough purple in it that it matches the greens of the back, and trying to get the hair in line with the palette as well. And of course the lips. And you can see it's quite a bit of improvement already, but I'm also going to do the color balance as well, for your shadows, whites, and the midtones. Sometimes I do color balance first and then do the fine tuning in the selective colors, but really the preference is up to you. You can see it creates a much more vibrant look. Just gonna put those in one folder so you can easily see the before and after. Now I'm going to open up in Camera Raw again, and I'm going to do another version with a more simplified, darker background. Open that up in Photoshop, and we're just going to drag that on top and create a layer mask to hide it. Then I'm going to paint in white on that layer mask to reveal the background that has been darkened, just in the areas directly in the background, so that it really helps the model pop out from the darker background. I'm just carefully going through here and painting everything, but I do want a few of the leaves that are closer to the camera just to stand out a bit so that the depth isn't flattened entirely. So I'm going to paint those back in black. So you can see the mask shows through the darker background, but shows through where the leaves are. Now I just try to multiply to see if that gets it a little bit darker for me, but it's not quite the look I'm going for. So I'm going to do apply image on a group in here. And then I'm going to set it to multiply and just adjust the brightness and contrast until I get the look that I'm going for. Now I'm going to open it up in Camera Raw here again, and this time I just made it extra bright just so I can get the eyes and little ball jewelry there. I pasted that on a layer above, and once again I'm making the layer mask black and then just painting in white where I want it. So it just gives me a little bit more contrast in the eyes. And I'm going to do a Gaussian blur just so that there's no sharp edges that show that layer sticking out and looking pasted on. And now that I've got that done, I'm just doing some spot removal, getting rid of little imperfections on the skin here. Not changing anything dramatic, just trying to get some even tones, removing blemishes. And I merge those two layers together. And now I've got an action that I'm going to do some frequency separation. I don't have time to go through all the details of the frequency separation, but I do have other tutorials that you can find on my channel that can help you out in fine detail. So on the low layer, I'm basically smoothing out all the broad areas of the skin, and I'm basically just taking little selections here and blurring them. And then I'm using Control F just to apply it again and again. And now on the high layer, where I have my high frequencies, I'm going to use the spot removal tool and take out a lot of these real finer details. So when you combine the high and the low together, you're covering all the imperfections on a grand scale and a fine scale. I just put those in a folder called Skin so I could easily see it on and off. If you're not happy with the look of them together, you can go through each individually and make adjustments at any time. Now I made a layer called Skin Color Normalization, and basically all I'm doing is painting a color that I picked that is going to smooth out all the skin. It would be the equivalent of applying like a base layer of makeup, your foundation that's just going to blend everything together. I set it to the color blending mode. You don't want to just paint it on there, it's going to cover everything up. I just want to kind of blend the colors together, not change the tones or anything. I'm just going to merge that all together. And now I'm going to do a sharpening pass. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just finding the edges of my image and using that as a mask for when I sharpen. And I'll be sharpening using the unsharp mask. So just the edges of the image will be sharp, not the broad expanses of the foliage and the skin and all that. You can see just the finer details of the eyes, the lips, a little bit of the nostrils and some hair, and all the edges. Turn down the opacity to something that looks good. And I'm going to do some noise reduction. Merge some of these layers together, which is a good idea. You don't want to get too crazy with too many layers going if you feel like you've made significant progress and you want to solidify things. Go back into Camera Raw here, and I'm going to paste in the original. And that looks good to me. Here's the before and after. Thanks for watching Impossible Color. I hope you enjoyed the speed edit today. If you'd like to submit your own photo for a Save My Photo series, please do so in the comment section below. And if you liked the video, you thought it was useful, please share with your friends. Click like or subscribe to the channel is even better. See you next week.